I think we're back. Tell me we're back. Tell me we're not connecting to YouTube. Oh, we're connected. Yes. Yes. And we're back. I was worried there. And we're back. How you doing, folks? Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, roll in. Come on in. Let's let the people join back up. Let's let the people join back up here. Come on in. Come on in. Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. So, not sure what happened. YouTube just ended. But we're back. And you can fight away for your crowns again. Look, they've reset the crowns. Huh? C Sal, 25 XP. Stuck at number 7. She's working her way back up. Hit that like button. We got calls coming in. Let's get to some calls. 888-775-3773. I know, Kevin Howe. What the heck, man? Try again. We got calls coming in. We're going to get to you, so that's what we'll do. Thanks for the super chats and all that. People trying to get crowns. You could try again. Harmony Grits with the super chat says, how about we have a wait and see about the country? Fair enough, Harmony Grits. I shall do that along with you. We got Brian out of North Carolina, man. Appreciate your call, sir. You're on the air.
Thanks, Nick. How you doing, man? You doing all right?
All is well. No complaints. We're back here. Little YouTube glitch, but we're back.
I think I heard you talking about the live drop. Did it?
Yeah, it seems to have dropped, but we're back.
Nice. Well, listen, I called yesterday following, I can't remember the caller's name. He was a black guy that sounded a lot like one of Ronnie's family members.
Dennis.
You know Ronnie?
Oh, yeah, definitely
Dennis.
know Ronnie. Ohio.
Dennis, that was his name. Yeah, Ronnie from Ohio. Yep. I thought they sounded really similar. Did they sound similar?
A little, maybe a little bit, actually, yeah, now that you mention it. Maybe a little bit I'm
not saying that Ronnie called in, though. I'm not saying that.
No. I know that's not what you're saying. Dennis was the one right before you, though. Yeah, big time. And we were talking about, the black. He was asking me about black crime and in my estimation, he was kind of critical about black crime even being that out of disproportionate in his mind. He's not too he was unsure about that in the get-go, but assuming it is, where's it coming from? He was asking me.
Yeah, well, I noticed something about callers that call in, such as Dennis did. It seems as if, when you asked him a pretty direct question about black crime, I noticed that a lot of these black callers who are not, they're like a little more intellectual, they speak better and things like that. They like to act like they don't know the answer to questions regarding black people. They go, I don't know about that, as if they don't know black people. Like black people. But to come into the conversation and it's just disingenuous to me to come into the conversation and pretend like you're not aware of what's going on, and then to want to continue the conversation. It's almost as if these black people that call in doing this, they call in to start an argument, not to win the argument, because they can't win. There's no winning. You can't win with a lie, but just to drag the argument out so you can lose by arguing with them.
Interesting, man. Can you remember something? What was it? Can you remember something that he was saying in that respect, in that regard?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact.
That he was like denying knowing black people in that way.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was that you suggested to him. Like, well, what about this? But I do remember his response was, well, I can't imagine a black person doing that, or I can't imagine that. It's like, well, why do you don't have to imagine it. You know it's happening. You see it happening, but you want to act like it's just something that you have to imagine.
I know what you mean. It was difficult to pin him down on something that seems almost evidently And not even just evidently. I mean, statistics. It's alleged by statistics from law enforcement. You'd have to say you. It's one thing to say, well, I don't believe that. Maybe they're lying about it, but it's another to say, oh, that's just, or it's just not true. You'd have to contend with that. But besides that, yeah, it seems very difficult to just kind of admit something that was evidently and plain. And I think it's this.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with. Put it like this. You remember when Jesse was talking about blacks being, what was it? He was saying whites, they must be superior because they are building and able to maintain families, etc. And it seems blacks are unable to do those things. And so Jesse was asking, like, what is it? What's going on here? Are they truly superior? It seems that way. And if it's not, the blacks seem to talk like they are, and they seem to say that whites are more superior. What it is, I think, is many hear that conversation and think impossible. Like the things you're saying, it's just impossible that something can be wrong with a people in any particular way. But to go with Jesse, you'd have to at least start at the beginning, right? Before you make any claim about skin color, genetics, etc. Can we at least start at that first starting point? I think people like Dennis don't want to do that. Because doing that, you'd have to, I don't know what it is. You'd have to maybe make assumptions, but let's not make assumptions. Let's start at, are blacks committing more crime, disproportionate crime in these areas, yes or no? So it kind of falls apart.
Yeah, but it's hard to do that. You can't, talking about stat when you have to start with like the stats, like, oh, are the blacks committing crime in this area? It's hard to gain some understanding from a person that will just make up statistics, like, oh, 98% of black people don't commit crimes. It's like, okay, where'd you get that from? You just like wiggled that out of your I was going to say something not so decent, but
98%
I think
don't commit crime. I think I've heard something like that. I think from like people on Calling.
Yeah, that's what Ronnie said. Ronnie said 98% of people don't commit crimes or commit murder or something. One of the others he said, which is that's just a deviation. It's like anybody can create a stat, but it's a deviation from what we're actually talking about. It's like, okay,
but it's not. In fact,
even if that was true.
Well, let's just take it at face value for a moment here. What does that say? If someone is telling me, hey Nick, why are you trying to? If let's say I bring up a black crime story, and someone says, hey Nick, man, you're trying to make it seem like so many blacks commit crimes when it's only 2%. Well, what are you trying to? Well, then what are you telling me with that? You're telling me that out of all these, let's say you give me a bag of out of all the crimes the FBI has reported on, the whatever percentage breakdown, they say what 50% or something, in some violent crimes is committed by blacks. You're telling me out of the 2% of blacks are committing all those? What's going on? There's still something wrong there, is what I'm trying to say, right? Like, if we have to contend with just that, then there's still something wrong.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, Nick. It's just getting further. Like, okay, now we're talking about something else. It's the same point to you. Like, I agree with you when you say that. It's like it's not a deviation because we're still talking about the same thing, which is a problem with these people. Like, okay, now we just move to another problem. We're not going to address the problem of blacks committing crime. And now we go, well, it's only a small percentage of blacks. Okay, well, even still, like you just said, what's wrong with that? Like, how is it possible that only 2% are committing 50%? There's something wrong there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we just left the conversation.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I see what you're saying, sir. Yeah, big time. But
it's just disingenuous. But I understand too
this
that
plain truth thing, is a good point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think a piece of that is not just the people being like deliberately being disingenuous. I remember Hake asked me recently if I thought somebody was doing something on purpose, like to agitate, and I think there is a layer of that occurring. But I'm starting to realize that a lot of these people, they just really believe these dumb things. And these dumb things just keep them from doing stuff like having a simple conversation about what's in front of us. Instead, we bring up other things that are outside of the conversation.
Yeah, it's not even in the realm of possibilities that a group of people or whatever can be disproportionate in this way. In many ways, in what it is, I think, in many ways, anti-racism brainwashing is very powerful and ingrained, and me even in us, we were steeped in it in a sense, and so it endures in that way. Should someone bring up, you're like, I'm a patriot, I see the truth, I'm not into identity all day, but should someone bring up, right, so some of the things we're talking about, it's like, hold on, how can you say that about a group? Like, it persists, this anti-racism brainwashing.
Yeah,
I think
really deep.
Sir,
within the community too. Because I had this conversation with someone else yesterday, and we kind of like dove a little bit deeper into like, why is that happening? Like, why are there blacks that are seemingly, intellectual individuals? They speak well, they do this, they do that. They don't come off so black, but somehow they still identify with the black. It's like, where did that come from? And why aren't you able to separate yourself from people who you're obviously different than? You grew up being different than them, but for some reason you're still stuck in this ideology of these are my people. It's like, where does that come from? Does it come from being outcasted as a youth, because you didn't fit in, and then somehow you like reconciled with that in some weird way?
Or maybe they're not that different.
People, I don't know.
Or maybe they're not that different.
Or maybe they're not that different.
You know what I mean? In that.
Maybe it's just
without assigning morality, it's just at some level, there are things that separate communities and people. You'd have to then overcome. You're asking an individual to overcome, seeing themselves as part of a group. And I guess maybe, for example, with me, it might be easier in some ways. I'm like a bit of a test tube freak baby, grown up, right? Globalist baby, anchor baby in America, goes to Canada. It's like, it was easier for me to maybe overcome such a group identity in terms of those things. So that's what you're asking of someone, So what? Maybe they're just not that different, right? Yeah, I can be, wow, I kind of get this about Trump or something, but at the end of the day, we're black and I'm black, and what's he doing for us, and how are we going to fight for ourselves? I don't know. Is that wrong? What do you think about it? Are they wrong for doing such a thing?
Yeah, I think so.
And why?
I don't do those things. I don't know. I don't
either, right? But are they wrong?
Any like collective thinking is just mass hell.
Fair.
In that manner,
I think you're somewhat correct.
What are we gonna do? Like,
I think you're somewhat correct in that there's more liberty. There's someone who's like outside of such a system, outside of such labels, is in a sense shielded and from the conflicts of those labels and whatever they have to do with that label. But yet, when you look at the world, it seems the vast majority won't become this enlightened individual, right? Like you and I or whatever. And enlightened, they'll be this group. So knowing that, are they wrong for it? You're saying they would be better off maybe if they didn't, but it's like, put it like this, Brian. When I see a video on X of this cop going into this community or whatever, and there's a guy just walking around and he's got his hoodie on, and this cop is just responding to some report of something, and this guy's just standing in front of his porch, and the cop's like, let me pat you down, and the guy's got a gun, and the guy goes nuts and is worried about that he might get patted down and what it might turn into. I saw a video like this the other day. I'm looking at this, I'm like, I bet you Mays might look at this and think, what's that cop doing in that community anyways? Patting this guy down. Let him sit in front of his porch with his illegal gun. And you know what? I'm at the point where I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah. Get out of that community. Make your own cops. Like, what is that guy doing there trying to do all that? So,
That's his
what was
job,
even the
man.
point? What was even the point of that? What were you saying?
I don't know.
There was a
I
point to
don't know.
that. There was a
I was
point to
off
that.
of it, but I had a question for you.
Yeah, give me.
I did have a question for you. It's kind of a side note. When did you when you were growing up? When did you start really like learning about America?
Learning about America.
Like the history and like
Uh,
all the
2016.
like presidents. Better question. When did you start? When did you find out about our forefathers? That's a better question.
Oh, yeah. No, that was as a kid. I saw that stuff as a kid. Civics and the forefathers and the founding fathers. I've been
Really?
knowing about that. I've been knowing about that broken bell, right? That bell with a crack in it, and Ben Franklin and stuff since I was a kid, right? I've seen all that, and Abraham Lincoln. I've been knowing about that, right? Like
Okay.
as much as maybe the next guy. I mean, I remember seeing that cartoon. Tell me if you've seen this cartoon, and it was like somewhat educational, and it was about like founding fathers and all that. What the heck was this cartoon? And I remember learning about how they used like brick dust to brush their teeth. Founding Fathers cartoon. What was it? It was this cartoon. It was on TV, and it was like these kids who like time traveled and would learn, and they
No,
would
man,
teach
it's
us
not ringing a
Liberty
bell.
Kids. It was called Liberty Kids.
Liberty Kids.
So
I'm gonna have to
yeah,
check
I've
that
been
out.
knowing a little bit about this. Come on. It's called Liberty Kids. Shout out Liberty Kids.
I guess I kind of should have figured that. I was just curious because I know
You were saying you were just curious for what?
I know you're coming from outside of America, and so I was curious. Like, what do people who aren't in America actually know of America?
I know I have holes though. Like that's definitely disjointed because somewhere along the way, right? We picked up and went to Canada, so now I'm learning about Canadian history, but I'm missing huge bits. I'm like, who the heck is John A. Macdonald? Why do I keep hearing about this? Who the heck is John A. Macdonald? Okay, I just got here, so yeah, it's definitely disjointed, and it endures in a similar way, right? I'm like just learning about Bush era stuff, Obama era stuff. Yeah, so there's definitely an enduring Anchor Baby disjointed quality to it.
I see. Trying to bring the joints together.
Yeah, that's what you guys are here for sometimes. Yeah.
Right on, man. I was just curious.
I'm as American as the next Anchor Baby. Yeah, no problem, Brian. Appreciate your call.
Yes, sir. I wish you well.
Call me again. 888-775-3773. Come on, you guys know Liberty Kids? So I learned a little bit about America and stuff. It was on TV. In the movies, in school a bit. Tell me if you recognize these images. We can move on. You guys remember Liberty Kids. Liberty Kids. Okay. Nick still doesn't know about our forefathers. That might even be a better response, Kevin Howe. That honestly might be a better response. My husband hit me, but what? What's up, cuz? You're probably talking about something else. 888-775-3773. How you doing, sweet Amy? Appreciate all the supporters. I've been to the Liberty Bell 4 times. Where is the Liberty Bell, by the way? Pennsylvania? Where's that thing? I thought I'd done seen it in Georgia. Or was that just another bell? You know, I went to Georgia and saw the slave houses. That was amazing, actually. The old slave houses in Georgia, talking about America and what do you know about the founding and all that. I even got myself sort of educated a little bit recently. Went to Georgia. Went to that slave house. You know, they treated their slaves sometimes well. They didn't want to say it. It was difficult for them to even talk about it. The tour guides, but you know, they had to like preface it to us because there were these letters and accounts of this family that owned slaves and how well they treated some their slaves, and one in particular. You know, they had to tell us, hey, by the way, you're about to hear about how well and how much they loved this slave. Don't forget, there were dirty slave owners. So they were, ergo, they were just automatically their hearts are wicked. And we can judge that here in 2024 or 2023. I forget when that was. Just remembered that now. Liberty Bell, Pennsylvania. Where were we? Where were we? So, I mean, it kind of fits talking about America in this way, in this manner. I do have I was left with a little bit of homework concerning civil rights and all that. I mean, I was left a little bit of homework. You know, what Mays basically told me to figure out why the Republicans and Democrats switched. And I'll tell you right now, Mays, if you graded me, I might not get too good of a grade. I may have done my homework as the school bell rang. Oops. I could probably do a better job on this. I just got to say, it's not even that interesting. I mean, what? The Southerners who were cool with segregation and slavery and stuff were Democrats, but then, you know, then they did civil rights. And it's like, hey, hold on. We're not with that. We're racist. So now we're Republicans. I mean, that's too crude of a summary, I think. I think isn't more interesting this whole notion of civil rights themselves. You'd have to. It's the question I guess you wouldn't ask, right? It's answered in itself, right? They had a civil rights movement because they needed civil rights. Why should you dare and ask such a question? What are civil rights? It's like as if you almost don't believe that they didn't have rights before, but it begs the question, at least I sure ask it, what rights did blacks not have that they secured with the civil rights? They say, I mean, you ask people like, well, I don't know if it's a people, but ChatGPT, well, what did they secure? They secured desegregation. That was a right. That was a right that blacks secured. I don't know if that's a right way of putting it. But consider for a moment what you're saying. It's your right to be desegregated? That doesn't even make sense. It's not. That sounds nice. It means it sounds like, wow, we're getting along. And it's not, you don't have a right to hate somebody. It's like, that sounds nice. But what you're saying is, what you're actually saying is you don't have a right to not get along. Isn't that kind of insane? Does anybody have a right to say that to anybody ever in the world? You don't have a right to not get along. But what if you don't get along? You don't have a right to. Desegregation, that sounds more like a right was lost. Civil rights, they gained the civil right, according to ChatGPT. Civil rights, desegregation. I mean, ChatGPT says it forced the U.S. to start living up to its own constitution, but wasn't it in the Constitution to have the freedom of association? They say legal equality in jobs and public life, fairer housing opportunities, and better protection from discrimination and violence. I mean, summarize that under desegregation. What am I saying here? That these civil rights, they're saying, what right did they not have that they gained? It seems like they lost the right to freedom of association. And under that, you lose so many things, right? I mean, they'll call it equality, right? They call it equality. But now you can't say who you can hire. I mean, I guess when you unravel it, you were taught this is a good thing, right? But it's just when you unravel it, it doesn't quite make sense. That to me is more interesting, don't you think? Sorry, I didn't do my homework. I found a different rabbit hole. What actual rights did they secure that they didn't have? Jesse Lee Peterson tells me otherwise. I mean, he said, that's what he says, right? I mean, he told me. That's what he told me. He's like, Nick, I can't think of any so-called civil right I didn't have before this so-called civil rights movement. So anyways, I mean, something that people call me about. Where was I? Let's move on here. We got calls. You know, we got calls. How about we do that? We got Tracy out of Pennsylvania. How you doing, Tracy? Appreciate your call.
Hey, Nick, how are you?
Hey, Tracy. First time caller on my show?
Yeah, I called Hank the other day. First
Welcome.
time I ever called you, though.
Thanks for your call. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, one of my comments was about this question about why the Republicans and the Democrats switched.
Are you
And
familiar?
I think that's a canard. If you ever heard of Dinesh D'Souza, I think he debunks that whole BS. You know what I'm saying?
And what do you say?
Well, I'd have to go back to it because it was a whole, I think he did a whole thing on it, but a lot of people fall into that canard of, the Democrats and the Republicans are exact opposites now, and one's different, they switched places and whatnot. No, that's stupidity. Only ignorant people believe that's stupidity.
Was there a realignment of some sort?
Well, I mean, come on, you're talking about 200 years.
Yeah.
So,
No,
I mean,
I'm not.
life
I don't
goes
think
on,
that's.
you know.
Yeah, I don't find
can't-
it strange or weird at all. It's
I
just
mean, it's not in a bubble. I mean, people have different things change completely. Over time. You can't compare them like apples to apples because it's 200 years ago. They had different issues, different problems in life, and probably they probably had a better idea a lifestyle that was closer to God. I would probably say the Democrats of 1850 were probably more godly than either party today. I mean, even if you look at Donald Trump, I mean, Donald Trump by 1980 standards is liberal,
right.
but people are calling him a Nazi.
A right conservative, like that's
I
an
mean, he's
interesting
got
point.
RFK Jr. and all these people. That's basically the Democrat Party of 1980, which the blacks would have wholeheartedly supported him then. I mean, Oprah was on Donald Trump's jock in 1980.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I gathered the same impression of. Okay, I mean, I had the same impression that
Donald Trump in a heartbeat in 1980.
You said what?
Roddy would have been in on Donald Trump's jock in 1980.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, his policies. That was the policy of most black Democrats. He had the same policies that they did. That the Republicans were Reagan people.
But who are you talking about?
I'm talking about your liberal callers that call in all the time.
Okay, you're saying they would be all into Trump.
Yeah, if this was 1980, like I say, Oprah, she loved the Trump. She was kissing his ass.
Keep it clean. Keep it clean.
For president.
Yeah, I'm following you, man. That's a good
point.
She
was kissing his fanny. Excuse my language.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's more. You can't just. It'd be too crude, much too crude to just say, well, there was a switch, and now the racists are in the Republican Party.
Yeah. First of all, it's not apples to apples. We live in a 200 years different society.
Yeah.
Secondly, if, like I say, I can't recite it word for word, but don't fall into this trap of automatically assuming that the party switched. Check out Dinesh D'Souza. I think he did a good expose.
I'm familiar with him. I remember maybe hearing about that.
Yeah, I think he talked specifically about this, about how, it's not really the switch, but they got people believing it somehow.
Right, but there was like this. There was a realignment, right? I mean, I've gathered that enough. What's happening is this realignment that happened over time and over more things than simply just like skin color. I mean, maybe race, demographics, maybe all these things played there, but there was this realignment, and what's happening is they're taking this crude summary of this realignment and just trying to say that they're the racists are in the Republican Party today. Is that's what they're trying to say with this canard, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some good money involved if you can play that race card and kind of get people to stick to your party because of that. If you don't, you're a racist. So it's an important tactic that they use. But if you dig a little deeper under the surface of the politics of it, you'll find it's not so cut and dried like that. I mean, even in the South, it was an extremely small percentage of people that had slaves.
And that's all just like political voting block commentary anyways.
Yeah,
That's an old
well,
one. I've been hearing that one for a long time, honestly. I've been hearing that one for a long time, this party switch thing. And that's what that is. It's political voting block terminology. How do we get this voting block to vote for us,
Yeah, they play the numbers. And I would imagine nowadays it's even more so. They probably use AI and all that and do all kinds of computerized calculations to figure out, which positions should we take where we can get the most people to believe it and support us. It doesn't have anything to do with what's true or not. It's just, it's a game, basically.
Can you say at all what did realign?
Well, I mean, like I say, it's impossible to compare 1850 to today. I mean, there might have been some few, basics of the parties that they believe certain things. Well, to say that they're, polar opposites today and they switched, I mean, that's stupidity and ridiculous. I mean, that's stuff that they feed. Sorry to say, they're very ignorant, and a lot of the blacks buy into that, because they're kind of, like anybody that has any pride in themselves, they're more inclined to stick with their own race. And so if they find a party that, hey, this party is against the blacks, of course they're going to go the other way. I mean, it's just the natural way to do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
Well, thanks for your call, Tracy. Appreciate that. Call me again.
You bet. Thank you.
775-3773. Last few minutes here. Last few minutes of the show. I mean, there was a realignment, right? So I might have to now I feel like doing my homework. I mean, I've gathered that enough, right? There was some realignment. It wasn't how it's billed. We just switched. The Republicans and Democrats just switched names. But is anyone making that claim? I don't know if anyone's making that claim, right? Now, some dummies might be ignorantly parroting, like wrongly parroting a point about the so-called switch, and then when in their wrong description of it, they bill it as the parties literally switched, and then of course the other side will say, well, that's ridiculous, that didn't happen. But is that really the argument? Whatever. Anyways, civil rights. What a dumb thing. The real interesting part is, tell me exactly what rights did they receive in the 60s that they didn't have before. That's actually more interesting. Moving on. Last few minutes here of the show. Tomorrow's Friday already. Open Line Friday with the Jesse Lee Peterson Show. Fallen State Hake Report. We'll be back for more American Anchor Baby tomorrow. You want to be liking, you want to be subscribed. That way you know what happens, what's in store for you. That's what you want to do, okay? Thanks for all the coffees. Someone who's very generous. buymeacoffee.com/anchorbaby. All the coffees, thank you. The super chats and all my Rumble supporters, thank you for being a member. Thank you, Bat. Thank you for being a member. What do you mean, Gerda? What did I miss? What were you trying to tell me? Stop listening to ignorant people. Oh, I got you, Gerda. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a supporter. Looking at my Rumble chat here, okay? Amazing. Ignorant. You're saying she's ignorant, Gerda. We'll move on from that. Not trying to start anything. All right. Amazing. So we'll have to leave, honestly, this whole thing for tomorrow. Well, I'll just leave it for tomorrow. You know, I have a collection of conversations. You know how these conversations go online. Call it a debate. Call it a full-on fight. Some of these conversations. And it's spicy, right? It has to do with men and women. We'll leave it for tomorrow. We just don't have the time. It's just the conversation's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's just so wrong. You know? It's like, yeah. Women are so evil. They're so evil that they're ripping apart families for whims. You know, if they get money, when they win in a lottery, they divorce. When men get money in the lottery, they create families. When women are lottery winners, they exit. They use that money to exit families. It's a known thing. But then I'm like looking at the conversations and I'm like, okay, you know what happened some years ago? A whole bunch of us actually heard about traditional marriage, Christianity, the order, men over women. You know, actually a whole bunch of people heard that. And so did a bunch of women actually. and we all said, yeah, this seems like it might be right. Yeah, a whole bunch of people heard that. You're not suddenly experts and suddenly men and suddenly good people. So honestly, I'm rambling too much. We'll leave it for tomorrow. We got Jamie out of Atlanta in the last few minutes of the show, ending it off here. Jamie, appreciate your call. You're on the air. You just got
What's up, Nick? How you doing today, man?
Hey, what's up, Jamie? All is well.
Not much. I like where Pierce Morgan is changing his attitude about Israel and how they're killing kids. Have you seen any of his videos lately?
I have not. Pierce Morgan.
Yeah. He was calling out.
I'm familiar with Pierce here. I'm familiar with Pierce somewhat. You saying what makes you say that?
Because he was calling out the UK minister from Israel or their diplomat from Israel in the UK. He was calling her out last night saying, you know how many Hamas soldiers that you killed? Because she was saying they've killed like 30,000 of the Hamas soldiers.
Who was saying that? Sorry, who's it? The UK?
The ambassador from Israel for the UK.
Yeah,
a lady, I can't remember her name. But she said they've killed 30,000 Hamas soldiers. And he said, well, how many kids have you killed? She said, I don't know. She don't have no number for that, but they got numbers for how many Hamas people they killed. What they don't understand.
Is that the number? But I mean, if you were her, is that a number you really want to?
No, they won't tell you what the number is because that would infuriate people around the world even more. So,
of course,
because the number of kills, I think they're saying like 18,000.
Of course, you know how people are. You just tell them about dead children and you got them.
Well, you should be upset about dead people killing dead children. What's wrong with you, man? Come on.
You saying I should be upset?
Yes, you should be upset about that.
Why?
Because they're killing babies.
But I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not saying it's good. What do you mean? Why should I be upset?
What I'm saying. So you would be one of them that stand on the sidewalk and watch a grandma get punched in the face and have her purse
I don't know
snapped.
what I'd do should I be in that situation. I'm not in it. I don't know what I'd do. I'd say maybe not, maybe yes. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was
like
funny.
When you say a grandma, yeah, maybe a part of me wants to say, "Oh, come on, you got to save the grandma, right? She's helpless." I mean, what do you want me to say? No,
you don't think babies are helpless?
Yeah, babies can be pretty helpless. Yeah.
Have you seen any of the videos?
But you're asking me to be upset over it, though. That's the part I don't understand.
But you should be upset when you see evil.
No, that's not how. But that's what evil wants you to do. Haven't you noticed that evil wants you to be upset?
No, they don't. That's why they're not allowing any journalists or anything over there into Gaza, because more people would be able to see this stuff.
What are you talking about? There's all sorts of. Well, I don't know about in Gaza, but I mean, there seems to be all sorts of reporting and videos and journalism.
Yeah, but the videos are coming from inside. They're not news people that are reporting this stuff.
Well, so what are you saying with that? If you're trying to say the world doesn't want to like show the pain. I mean, you see that every day. I just don't see what
I'm
you're saying.
Israel don't want to show the pain. That's
Well,
why
of
they're
course
not
they
allowing
do.
any.
Well, I mean, of course they don't. I mean,
Yeah, because it was
it's
show
about war. You know, it's all about
No, it's
war
because
in public.
It ain't about
In
war.
today's
Man, it's
age,
not about war, Nick. Nick, this
no, wait, hold on,
war.
Jamie. No, you're misunderstanding me. So I'm gonna have to talk over you. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. In this case, it is about war because what is it to in terms of war strategy? It is strategically expedient for Israel to want to control, in a sense, how the public receives news of what they're doing. You know, war in the modern age is not detached from public opinion. You have social media, like you said. So, I mean, on that point, I mean, I'm not being obtuse, am I? Right? It's strategically expedient for Israel to want to present the war in a certain way, right? I mean, that's an obvious point.
It's pretty much all the way all the wars.
Yes or no? I mean, am I clear on that?
media,
I mean, that's an obvious point, right?
No, I don't.
That Israel would want to present the war in the way they want it to be presented. Wouldn't that be a strategic point for their war?
That would be.
That's all I'm saying.
That would be a way to deceive the masses, but that's what I'm saying.
Whether it's deception or not, I'm not. Whether it's deception or not, that's all I'm saying is that's it's in their bag of tricks of terms of strategy. That's all I'm saying. So what were you saying?
But I think they should. I think they did it in all the wars because our media has been controlled, and it's been controlled by a certain group of people where they portray what they want you to see. But the internet has stopped that because there's so many people with phones. Everybody's the media now. So the talking news, the MSN that Trump calls the fake news, they are fake. They've been fake for a long time. Because when I was growing up, we only had like 4 channels. Now we've got, everybody's got a.
So what's your question or comment?
Huh?
So what's your question?
I just want to know if you had seen Piers Morgan and seen how he's changing over and he's getting off the Israel bandwagon.
Yeah, he's a pretty wishy-washy guy. So I'm not surprised that pressure can make him change. That pressure works on Piers Morgan.
Yeah, but I don't. You're talking about the wrong pressure. He's been licking the boots of Israel for what? 18
I'm talking about
now?
the what? I'm talking about the what pressure?
The pressure that the Israel.
I misheard
puts
what
on
you
him.
said. Is all you said? I'm talking about the what pressure?
I don't know what pressure I said.
Oh, I misheard you. You said what were you saying about pressure?
I'm saying he's bowing to the pressure.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we agree on that. Like Piers Morgan is a person that pressure works on, so I'm not surprised what you're saying. Pressure would make him say anything.
Yeah, but he was on Israel's side for 18 months. He was on the COVID side when the COVID thing was going.
Right.
He does exactly.
I'm not denying what you're saying. Yeah, pressure. Yeah, I know. I'm somewhat familiar with Piers Morgan. Pressure is pretty much what motivates him on how to speak and what he thinks.
He does what he's told to. He was all for the wearing the mask and getting the jab and all that when it was going on.
Right.
And that
pressure.
was a big thing.
So, are you? Huh?
Did you get the jab?
I don't disclose. I have a colleague who doesn't disclose such things, and I don't know why it seemed. I'm assuming that that's the proper posture.
So that tells.
I don't know why I'm just copying him in that respect. I don't. It seems like maybe.
Ask me if I got it.
Huh?
Ask me if I got the jab.
Did you get the jab?
Hell no.
Whoa, Jamie, you're so based.
Why would I get the jab? Why would you listen to what the government? Why would you listen?
You ever watch the Hake Report, Jamie?
Do I watch the Hake Report?
Yeah.
Yeah, from time to time I do.
Oh, okay. I was just memeing about Hake Report memes. He doesn't like to disclose his vaccines, his schmaxine status.
That tells you when he won't tell you his status.
Really?
That tells you he got it. Yeah.
That's so funny, man. So I laugh because I know James, and so for you to say that, it's funny. Assumptions is a funny thing. Assumptions is a funny thing about people.
But you can pretty much judge people by the way they talk, man. You can see how they lean. If he goes, I don't want to talk about my medical thing.
It's one thing to read in between the lines, but it's another thing to make up things in your head, which is some of what you're doing, Jamie. And in fact, with at least with James, it's 100% what you're doing throughout the conversation. I mean, but anyways, whatever. what are you trying to say? Let's move on, Jamie. Appreciate your call, man.
All right, man. I appreciate talking to me, Nick. Appreciate that, man.
Yes, sir. 888-7. Well, we're done. Show's over, folks. We're way over time. Time to go. People now want to know Marsh Maxine's status. Why can't I help but copy Hake on this one? If Hake won't disclose it, what makes you think I'm going to disclose it? I mean, it seems like I'm almost disclosing bank account information. Put it like this. My blood's pretty pure, baby. Let's go, baby. You know, put it like this. I'm too skeptical of trends. And it seemed obvious that I didn't need to do such a thing. I mean, I'm healthy. And then there's this trend and all that. They were censoring people over it. So, I mean, it was pretty clear for me. I'm going to keep that wait and see attitude. Didn't we learn something about that? About wait and see attitude? Didn't that teach us a little something about wait and see? COVID and all that. We heard Jesse tell us COVID happens. Hopefully some of you learned that. So hopefully we learned that lesson, right? Wait and see. You don't have to go with hype. Anyways, we're moving on here. We got to go. End of the show. Take care, folks. That's it from me. See you tomorrow. Peace. Bye.